Alrighty, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome into the Noll Road. We have the best keys for a Steelers victory on today's show. Plus, will Cam Heyward play? What if he doesn't? What if somehow the Steelers don't win? And I'm going to give you here what I believe is the best way, the only way to bet this Steelers-Jets Week 1 matchup. Here we go.
Van to the corner of the end zone. Oh, for a touchdown!
Yeah, buddy, welcome in. I'm Gavin Dawson, 25-year sports radio veteran, and with me, as always, New Bear Lesniewski, the all-academic SEC lineman at Kentucky. New Bear, how the heck are you on this Week 1?
Sorry for wobbling on the video. I just wanted to make sure you can see the little sorgles on the shelf. Those
The
of you,
sorgles? I don't know what sorgles are. So
sorgles is a little family farm here that we get. They have these boxes. You can get meal kits, and then of course all the local produce and stuff like that. We used to live on the north side. We're in the west end now, so it's a little bit more of a circuitous route. But we fell in love with it when we first got to Pittsburgh, and we love it so much we make the drive almost every Friday.
Well, I love that you're there, man. I cannot wait to be there for the draft and for as many games as I can make. I'm going to make this real quick. How I'm betting this game. By the way, the Noll Road brought to you by BetOnline. Sign up bonus with the referral link in the description. It's the best way to play. It's available everywhere. Quickest payouts guaranteed. Plus, poker and casinos. I mean, you get the full experience there with BetOnline. But Jets are +3 in this game. That's a big number for a low-scoring game. That's what I expect, New Bear. Low-scoring game. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I don't want to. If you watch the Cam Heyward pod, you know that I think this should be a blowout. I think they should run the Jets out of their own house. And then you go, is that what we really think is going to happen? We think this offense is just going to come out of the gates, running hard and running fast.
Aaron Rodgers has never been a fast starter, has he?
Well, yeah, and now he's old.
The master of the relax at week 6 when they're averaging 18 points per game, and maybe they catch fire late, but I definitely don't expect it early.
You think Sauce is going to travel with DK and just make their life a living, 6 and 8 and 10 at the sticks with those tight ends at a time? Can you get a? So you asked a simple question. Do you think it's going to be a low-scoring game? Unfortunately, I'm inclined to agree with you. I would be okay if we split the difference and maybe give an opportunity for a pick 6 or just one of those moonshots to DK when he either gets Sauce running with someone else by formation, or you get, the big fella, Mount Washington, with an anytime touchdowns like plus 1,100 or something crazy like that. And you just get an opportunity to kind of run away and keep Justin Fields from being a runner and have to put him in a position where they're playing from multiple scores behind, and that would allow them to maybe kind of put their foot on the throat and pull away. And maybe it's still a low-scoring game by total points, but there's a whole lot more for the black and gold. That's where I'm living. That's the world. That's the headspace I'm in heading into Sunday.
I mean, you could get takeaways. You could run this thing up. You could drop a 40-burger week 1 against this Jets team. You could dominate possession 40-20. You could draw up all sorts of scenarios. But as a sports wagerer, degenerate gambler, I guess, depending on how you look at it, minus 150 is the money line. I have a lot less anxiety about giving away that juice, and laying the $150 because I would be shocked if the Jets actually win this game. My only concern is, will the Packers score enough to cover? And I don't like backing, offensively challenged or offenses that I have questions about with a field goal. So, assuming Heyward plays, I think it's a breakout party for the defense. I don't even know if the Jets are going to get to double-digit points. I think there's going to be a lot to like about Week 1, but Steelers on the money line, I think, is screaming for all my action.
Yeah, I think they have. You said 3 is a high number because you think it's going to be a low-scoring game. 17, 16, 16, 14, 19, 17. So even 2017 doesn't get you there, right? You gotta. That's the thing that's so fun about all this is like when you watch these. What are the bad losses? What's the handle where bad beats? Bad beats where you get like a 93-yard fumble return, with 3 seconds left. It has nothing to do with the outcome of the game, kind of thing, and. That was basically what I was talking about, kind of splitting the difference where they're able to pull away and then something happens late would still put you on the well clear of that. And that's where, I really want to see, like, if we start this thing out and you say, like, what's the number one thing, right? Like, what's your number one thing that would prevent them from covering? And for me, it's Quinnen Williams. For me, it's if Quinnen Williams, who in my opinion, and I think there's a lot that goes into this, whether you're talking about PFF or All Pro or Pro Bowl or NFL Top 100, Quinnen Williams, when he's right and when there's any help around him and when they get anything from the offense, is one of the top guys inside, and he has the ability to destroy a game. And when you talk about how much I love Zach Frazier, I think he's the third best center in football. I think he's in the top 100 next year. You talk about these guards, McCormick has come on, but has he come far enough? Say Amalu with the soft tissue. Like, can they control Quinnen Williams on the inside? And if they do, then even if Sauce takes away DK, I see them running away with this game.
Quincy Williams, his brother's pretty dang good. Will McDonald's good. Their linebackers are all good. I think their lone weak point might be their safeties over here, Andre Cisco and Brandon Stevens, but it is a dang good defense. And I think it's been very frustrating for Jets fans. They've been unable to put this together. And last year's 5-win season with Aaron Rodgers had to be a complete shock because there is a lot to like about this football team. They did lose Alijah Vera-Tucker. I think the path to victory for the Jets is, can we build a running game with Allen and Hall and Fields and play great defense? And, I don't think it's impossible. Looking at that depth chart, you got a lot of good players on this Jets team still.
Aaron Glenn was a hell of a player, and he's a really, really good coach. And people forget that because it wasn't just Aiden Hutchinson who went down. That whole defense, I mean, it was like a house of horrors that probably kept the Detroit Lions from winning a Super Bowl. And him ending up in New York is one of those blessing in disguise things, because that franchise, for all of its pomp and circumstance, has been down and has had an inability to get out of their own way. They're like the homeless man's version of the Pittsburgh Steelers, in as much as our non-losing seasons and first-round playoff exits, they are like the broke-ass version of that. And they haven't been able to solve the quarterback. And they've had obviously way more holes and way more dysfunction and a whole lot more tabloid stuff. So before you come get me in the comments, I did call them the homeless man's version. But as you look at it, you go, what if Aaron Glenn's the guy who can finally get it right? His philosophy is boiled down to 3 words: attack the quarterback. And if Sauce is able to mitigate K out, and Quinnen Williams and McDonald. And let's not forget, you did not mention Jermaine Johnson, because just like we talk about injuries in Detroit, Jermaine Johnson's a guy who had the terrible Achilles, just like Aaron Rodgers, and is on a much delayed timeline coming back, or even emerging and entering the superstardom that was once sort of predestined for him. I mean, he's a guy who was involved in every trade rumor. And every time I heard his name, I was like, why are they willing to just give away? And then you forget that he might never be the same player again. But if he's able to recapture some of that form, there's a lot to like about what this Jets team can do up front. And for me, that's where it starts. If they can get after Aaron Rodgers' ass, it could be a long day attacking the quarterback.
Yeah, and I think the lack of wide receiver too has to be a factor as well. If Sauce Gardner does put the clamps on DK, and your tight ends in the middle of the field can't find space because they're getting pressure with 4, they're stopping the run. Then I think this offense could really come grinding to a halt, and you could be looking at trying to win 14-13, which is again why I would just be doing money line stuff. But yeah, big part of that nightmare scenario is, what if Aaron Glenn can button up this talent? And I wouldn't bet against him doing it. I think it's probably far-fetched that he could pull that off week 1, but a Jets coming out party. Every year for the last 20 years, there's been 4 teams that did not make the playoffs the previous year that then made the playoffs. And I would be surprised if it's a Justin Fields led team. I mean, we do know this quarterback quite well, but I think those are the 2 most likely nightmare scenarios, with maybe Fields and Hall and Allen giving you those Ravens vibes from the playoffs last year.
One thing I've been thinking a lot about, and I'm not saying this to be contrarian or to be, what if this or what if that, but Bill Belichick, one of Bill Belichick's favorite things to do was to take his best corner and think about all the guys he had: Gilmore, Revis, et cetera, on down the line. Take your best corner, and put him on wide receiver 2 and just completely take him out of the game and then double wide receiver 1. And now you're basically neutering the offense altogether, right? Yeah. What if they Brandon Stevens is a big physical corner. He's 6'1", 215. Brandon Stevens is like a good player. Do you think he's big and physical enough with safety help, given the safeties are the unknown, like you talked about. The safeties might be the weak link of the Jets defense. If you double DK and you say Stevens is going to press man and just delay him, knowing he's got help, and Sauce runs with Roman Wilson season, or what if Sauce runs with Jonnu Smith? What if they really get creative here on the other side and start dictating the way that you can attack them?
Yeah, I think Jonnu Smith is a huge factor here in this season, and I think it's where you find a ton of the optimism, even though you don't have a wide receiver too. Like what he was able to do last year for Atlanta is, would be a damn good wide receiver 2 type of statistical profile. And I think he's got to be it. He's got to maybe even exceed that. We've seen Aaron Rodgers with several different tight ends throughout his career have a tremendous amount of success throwing to him. And I think if this Packers offense is going to take away my anxiety here in the first month of the season or so, I think it's going to be the tight ends having a bigger impact than they've had at any point in their career.
I've said a couple of different times, a couple of different ways, something to the effect about, Jonnu Smith's stats a little bit inflated in Miami last year because Tyreek was in and out and Waddle was in and out, and it was a bit of a dumpster fire. And you just had so many injuries, and there's only one football. What if it's actually the opposite? And because there isn't a wide receiver 2, his numbers were under inflated, and it was a Tom Brady Deflategate ball that we're playing with, and you're looking at 150 targets for him. Now I'm not trying to gaslight anyone. I'm of the ilk, not just because of what happened in Miami, but because of the ball distribution that's going to happen in this tight end room, because Fire moves to dude, because Mount Washington should get more opportunities, and because, quite frankly, the running back room should get way more opportunities. And when you look back at Algier and Bijan, when you look at some of the splits that Artie Smith has had, a lot of the stuff that people have beef with Artie Smith about what he doesn't do is because he doesn't have the dudes. And one of the things that's really interesting about this team, the same way you talk about the defense with star power, and you also can believe in it because of the depth if somebody were to go down and how you can kind of keep it rolling, they may not have stars at wide receiver 2 or in the entire running back room, but they have dudes with really interesting skill sets that Aaron Rodgers and company can find ways to get the ball in space.
All righty, up next here on the Noll Road, where every day we talk about the Steelers getting back to the glory days. Let's talk about the best opportunities here for the Steelers to dominate this game. I think it starts with the Jets rookie tackle Membu making his debut against this Steelers pass rush. Would you be able to sleep Saturday night? Vera-Tucker out for them. I think that's got to be mass anxiety for the Jets. I mean, this could be a 4 or 5 sack game for Pittsburgh.
So this is all the talk that I've had about how Jalen Ramsey playing at all 3 levels and TJ Watt lining up at the B gap or mug in and doing. This might be one of those games that you park TJ over right tackle and get him in a sprinter stance 90 friggin' times, and you just tell him to go make Justin Fields' day, because you might not have to do too much to kind of trick him and dick him, because we all know how much Fields. It's not just that Fields struggles with reads. It's that Fields' eyes go down when he gets pressure, because he's just going to one read and go, and he knows what he's capable of. I mean, I mean, I'm going to say even Vic and Lamar, even those guys. What the hell? Fields put himself in the top 10 MVP voting on one of the worst teams in the league when he was one of the worst quarterbacks throwing the football that year. That's how good of a runner this guy is.
160 times he ran it that year for close to 1,200 yards. I think that's really interesting, because when the NFL is zigging, the smartest teams are getting ready to zag. Could Aaron Glenn be preparing to unleash Justin Fields even more? And I ask you that because there is no good reason to bet on Justin Fields as your quarterback of the future. There's just no good reason to do it. He's a decent place-holding quarterback. I think I would be saying, can we run him 225 times this year, guys?
You got to protect himself from himself.
Hey, he's a big, strong guy. He ran it 160 times a couple of years ago without getting hurt. I would tell him, dude, if you pull this off, we might give you another contract because we're going to become physical running. We might draft another running back, and we'll make sure we have a physical, athletic offensive line that can pave. And, why else would you explain that the Jets deciding Justin Fields is going to be our next quarterback instead of Aaron Rodgers? If you needed a bridge, just keep A-Rod and maybe consider trading your wide receiver that he didn't have great chemistry with.
They had to go nuclear. They had to start over. You don't get much more different than going from Aaron Rodgers to Justin Fields, right? I mean, that's about as polar opposite as it gets. Let's I'm not saying pump the brakes, and I'm not saying Justin Fields is even a good NFL quarterback, but he does have tremendous arm talent, and he does have the ability to run. So if you can put him in a position where he's not big enough, strong enough, he doesn't play the same way as Cam Newton to run him that much designed runs. But if you're talking about building it in where it's waggle, rollouts, slide routes, where it's literally one read and then he's maybe got a dude in the flat that he can flip it to, or you go get 7 and step out of bounds, and you're going to try to game plan and mitigate everything around that and basically play rock fight football, but running the quarterback. That's a fascinating thing, right?
I'm going to force you into man coverage, and we're going to find matchups. You're going to live with 8 in the box if Justin Fields is my quarterback. I think that could be promising. That could get you in the playoffs. Not dissimilar to what Tim Tebow was able to do with the Denver Broncos. Sorry if that's a sore subject, but
it's funny that you bring that up. John 3:16 forever. The walk-off to Demaryius Thomas will live in infamy. He couldn't throw the ball underhanded to me and you standing in the same room, and then he throws one of the biggest dimes of all time. Oh, Tim Tebow. But what's funny about bringing that up is that you inarguably Justin Fields is a better thrower of the football than Tim Tebow, and that alone is a high. That's a playoff team. That's a team that won a playoff game against another good team. That's a team that had an identity. And oh man, before we go down that rabbit hole and you start talking about, you look at some of the dudes on those rosters that became Peyton Manning's guys, that became a Super Bowl team. That's part of the totality of this thing, which is why you can be so high on the Steelers, because it's not all on Aaron Rodgers. And even though it looks like it's going to be a heavy load for DK Metcalf, that dude lifts weights. He stays in the gym. And then that tight end room is going to support him. And they got a stable of running backs. So just to bring it back to that one thing before we move on to just 2, 3, 4, 5, is this all starts up front. And if they can control Quinnen Williams on their side, and then they can get home the other way, this is a long day for the New York Jets.
It's unbelievably depressing. I don't even think they should be trying to pass. I mean, if you're planning on Justin Fields being a quarterback for 17 games, he's going to get hurt. I think that's the point you were making. We kind of digressed into Justin Fields, but the point was this Steelers defense should absolutely massacre Justin Fields. He can't read beyond one. I think their best hope is that he can escape the pocket and outrun whoever is chasing him.
Yeah, well, and just like we're talking about not having the wide receiver 2 developing issue, do you like Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin at all? Or do you like Josh Reynolds and Alan Lazard? Xavier Gibson's got a little, there's young guys that maybe have, but those are undrafted guys and second and third day picks. And then, you're basically talking about Jazzy Reynolds and Alan Lazard after Garrett Wilson. So what I'm going to be the most interested to see, all kidding aside about TJ Watt lining up and just sprinter stance from right tackle the whole day, is what do you do? Who follows Wilson? Is it Ramsey? Is it Porter? Is it Slay? Because if Ramsey's going to be blitzing off the slot and that's on the other side, and then TJ's coming from Justin Fields' right, and you got Ramsey blitzing from his blind side, and Slay or Porter is running with Wilson, and then the other guy is running with Jazz Reynolds or Alan Lazard, where are they throwing this football?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know how much you have to do other than man until they can connect with Wilson.
I will say this, and the same way we talk about Jonnu Smith, Mason Taylor is getting rave reviews out of Jets camp. You know who that is, right?
No.
That's Jason Taylor's son, the star from LSU, the handsomest boy at prom, who just happens to be a matchup nightmare, who can, you want to talk about traits, you want to talk about size, speed, all the ratios. I really didn't understand why he fell so far in the draft. And he even had production. He was a second round pick. I thought he was going to be one of those sleeper guys, that rose because of the Underwear Olympics and what he had done, for Brian Kelly at LSU. And I mean, but you're talking about 6'5" and change, 250 and change. And when you think about the traits and you think about the 23andMe, there's a lot to like about that young man. And now you're talking about getting the answers to the question, is Peyton Wilson truly one of the best cover corners in the NFL? And is he going to get his damn hand up and his head around, unlike what he did in the preseason? Because I don't think they're going to Patrick Queen's too small to run with Mason Taylor.
Up next here on the Noll Road, do you think there's an emotional factor in this game with the quarterbacks playing against their former teams? This is to me, it's a national sports center type of headline. I don't think either player was around long enough really for there to be many feelings at all. I just think it would kind of feel like another stop on a road trip.
Did you see the thing a couple weeks ago where people were asking if Justin Fields was like OCD because he kept pulling on his wristbands and adjusting his chin, coming through the tunnel?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's weird energy about him. There's anxiety. I mean, there's a reason that quarterbacks have composure and calm and poise, and a lot of it is just how their brains work. And he just has never had that calm QB energy about him.
That frenetic way that he plays makes that's how his brain synapses fire. It's I'm gonna touchdown, first down, get down in his core, and a lot of times he doesn't even get down. I mean, he takes hits. And that's why I was talking about protecting himself from himself, is the same way that, the guy who replaced him in Chicago, Caleb Williams, if they would just be check down merchants, they would be much better quarterbacks. But because they're athletic enough, and Justin Fields is way more athletic than Caleb Williams, everyone is, Ryan Clark especially, championing the generational talent for Caleb Williams thing is extremely fascinating to me, because the way they process, when you talk about guys who lead the league in sacks, when you talk about guys who run for 500 yards or more and completely negate that with the negative sack yardage lost, and then you want to talk about generational talent, it's this too. It's processing speed, it's spatial awareness. And that's the same way that you can take away all the physical stuff, which, by the way, let's not forget the howitzer attached to Thomas Edward Patrick Brady's right shoulder beyond his brain. All those things are part of talent. It's not just run fast, jump high. If it was, Jamarcus Russell would have been the greatest to ever do it. So as we unpack this from an emotional perspective, I would actually be concerned, not because they're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, not necessarily because Justin Fields thinks he has something to prove, but because this portends to be a long day at the office for this still young man. It becomes a here we go again. It becomes a clean slate, fresh start, clear quarterback one, clear wide receiver one. Garrett Wilson is awesome. Mason Taylor is going to be a really good player in this league. Breece Hall might be the best running back in the whole league. You got weapons, right? You got Aaron Glenn. You got studs on D. They're holes, but there's good guys on both sides. And you legit, for all intents and purposes, what we think an adult is in the room with the head coaching headset. If you don't get it done again, and this is the third time you failed, Justin Fields is done.
Oh, yeah. Justin Fields is way done. That's why I was saying earlier, like, why would the Jets look to Fields as any sort of an answer? I don't think unless you are planning on absolutely running the ball. So let's turn the topic tree to that branch. Which team has the best chance at keeping the opposing offense in third and long? Is it the Steelers offense with these runners that we like but maybe not love, and this offensive line that we're hoping for a big step up from? Or is it the Jets with Fields and their runners and an offensive line they've invested heavily in, even though Elijah
I get what you're saying.
Who's going to have the best opportunities on the money down? And going into this game, I want to say Jets. I think you're going to be relying on Aaron Rodgers' ability to be better on third and 8 than Fields can be on 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4.
Remember that Patriots game in the wind where they ran it like 182 times and won? What if the Jets come out and don't throw a forward pass? What if they come out and it's like not wildcat, not inverted, wishbone wing T veer, any of the fun stuff? Shout out to your favorite college offense. But like, what if they really do just come out and say, we're willing to go not just 3 yards in a cloud of dust, because Breece Hall is going to pop one. the Braylon Allen's a good player too. He might pop one. Justin Fields can pop one at any time. And then, oh, by the way, like you said, you're talking about 8 in the box. You're talking about man coverage. All it takes is one slip. All it takes is one time, and Garrett Wilson is waving bye-bye, or Mason Taylor is waving bye-bye. I mean, Mason Taylor might be able to run away. That's going to be a fascinating matchup on like a little shallow, little something with movement for either one of these guys early. If a Garrett Wilson or a Mason Taylor is able to run away because it's one-on-one and there's no help. And so if you miss that first level, it's off to the races. And if you get a seam, if you get a crease between the tackles, again, it's off to the races. I was at the Jets game last year, and we've talked a lot about Pickens, and we've talked a lot about Aaron Rodgers for obvious reasons. Breece Hall in that game, I was in the looking at my buddy talking about how he's Marshall Faulk 2.0, because in a game where he was suffocated a little bit as a runner, he was so dominant as a pass receiver, and that's another team with challenges, right? That struggled, that was not a good football team, that never figured it out. And even if you bottle Breece Hall up, he's going to find a way to make an impact on the game. So the same way that I'm talking about Mason Taylor, and if that is Peyton Wilson, run with him, is it Patrick Queen that gets deployed on Breece Hall, or do they have to take a Ramsey or a Slay or a Porter out of the equation and mix things up? Because I don't think Juan Thornhill, Chucky Clark can run with that dude.
Yeah. Okay. So you lost Minkah Fitzpatrick. Last year, the Steelers defense, pretty good, top third in yards per rush allowed, right? They weren't an elite running defense, but they were pretty dang good. They've now, what if Cam Heyward would not play in this game? How would that impact this? And then, what if the Steelers don't win? I think we have to consider what Monday morning might look like across Pittsburgh. How much hope would you lose if they can't handle up on a Jets team in Justin Fields?
Especially because you beat them 37-15 last year the other way around, and now you have the quarterback from that other side, and you start asking all these questions. Not that it's one-to-one, not that we're in a mirrored conversation, and I actually think it's worse. Like if you turn around and put Aaron Rodgers in this situation with this defense, and the same kind of thing happens, then it would be actually absolutely terrifying, right? Because you're talking about a notorious slow starter being off to a slow start with the road ahead that they have to hoe, and that is a deep hole to start talking about digging yourself out of with what's ahead of them. Most importantly, for the division, I mentioned this in the previous pod. This could be a division that gets 3 teams in the playoffs, but because of attrition and because of everything else that's going to happen throughout the season, this might be a division that you have to win to get in.
Yeah. So a significant amount of anxiety for me. Felt rough about laying the 3. I think my official prediction is going to be 2017 Steelers. And like I said, I would not be surprised one bit if they get a bunch of turnovers and this turns into 35-6 Steelers at all. But without knowing for sure Cam Heyward is going to play, I think he's going to. I think I'd be a little bit surprised if he does. I think that a man with this much football character and integrity, I don't think he's got it in his football DNA to actually miss this game. But if he does, I think all bets are off, as your interior is going to be significantly softer.
Yeah, and then you're talking about like YA is a really, really good player, right? Big Sexy is going to be a stalwart, but like after 15, 18, 20, 22 snaps, is he the same guy? Snap 37, 51 if he's got to play that much? And it's the same question about Keanu Benton and Isaiah Loudermilk is, these are guys that you look at and you say, okay, this is what we think we're going to get out of them, but that's at halftime. That's not playing on third down. That's coming off the field, rotating and being able to give it everything you got, because you're not being expected to be out there 50 plus times. So if you're having to hold something back or save something or leave it in the tank because you've never done that before, that's a completely different game if Cam doesn't play.
Yeah, and it's a totally different game for your linebackers as well. I think we both like Wilson and Queen quite a bit, but not with offensive linemen running at him. I think
Queen is basically swallowed up. Queen is basically negated if he's not clean. Queen struggles fighting off blocks. He's small. He's fast. He's really good when he's weak side, when he's playing downhill, when he's aggressive, when he's blitzing. That's why he was so good playing off Roquan Smith and playing in Baltimore behind those big uglies up in front of him. He was clean, so he could just go wreak havoc. If you're going to play into the second level, like Breece Hall and company are going to make your life a living hell the same way that we're talking about right tackle against TJ Watt.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if they're not passing, you're still going to have Elliott and Thornhill coming into the box. You'll be able to get enough numbers in there that they won't absolutely dominate you. But I do think the Cam Heyward factor, if he surprisingly misses this game, I don't know if I'd be able to hit a bet on it on the money line if we get 90 minutes to kick off tomorrow. And Cam Heyward's
what one of the big problems was Thursday night, when you watch Jalen Hurts do what Jalen Hurts does, is they almost refused to spy him, and they had terrible rush integrity, meaning the Dallas Cowboys. And it had nothing to do with Micah Parsons. It was bad rush lanes, slipping on the field, and not having a spy or not blitzing. Because then when they did those things, they shut it down. When they played it straight, they got beat. And I wonder if the wild card in this becomes Jalen Ramsey. I wonder if Ramsey plays orbit the same way that your favorite slot receiver does, whipping around in motion in the backfield. I wonder if Ramsey becomes the spy. I wonder if Ramsey becomes the Justin Fields mug guy.
That was the talk immediately after that trade. Like, you can use these guys interchangeably. They can be chess pieces. And, I don't know. It would be interesting to take him out of coverage to focus on Justin Fields. But if it's getting away from you in the first quarter, maybe that's an adjustment we could see. Okay, we just have a few more minutes in this week 1 edition of the Sunday show, the Noll Road, getting you set for Steelers Jets. Do you have a Super Bowl prediction? Are you going to put those church bells in a wheelbarrow and wheel them up here and take Steelers? Can you do that right now? You know how much anxiety I have. I need to be proven wrong on the offensive line and wide receiver too. I think I could see the Steelers in the Super Bowl. I mean, hell, the Washington Commanders were in the NFC title game last year, so I think the Steelers are better than them. But I think your choices are, Kansas City, if their defense gets good again. They looked vulnerable, though, Friday night. Buffalo, a lot of people want to take Baltimore. The Ravens are favored at the Bills this week in week 1. Denver's out there. The Chargers are out there. I think I'd put them in a category right now with the Steelers as maybe not one of the clear favorites that are getting picked a lot right now, but I could see them in the conversation. But, man, I'm having a hard time with the Chiefs. I think they have let that roster just lose its firepower, and as Travis Kelce has gotten 1 year older, I don't think their window is that open anymore.
I don't even want to dignify that with a response because I don't want to give Chiefs Kingdom any fuel, and I don't even want to talk about them. I want the dynasty to go away. Otherwise the halftime show is going to be Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift's wedding. Like, I just can't. Like, it needs to stop. Make it stop.
The Swiftie stuff doesn't even hit my radar. I'm watching the game, and then I'm almost surprised every time they show her. I'm like, oh, so that's right.
Here's the thing. The Ravens arguably are the best roster in football. The problem is it's a steep drop-off if literally anyone gets hurt. I'm not just talking about Lamar, because pretty much every team in this league goes from Super Bowl contender to not, just from QB1 to QB2. But like, if Derrick Henry were to finally think about it, Derrick Henry had 10,000 carries in high school. Mm-hmm. Forget the Heisman Trophy winning year at Bama and everything he's done in his Hall of Fame. Like, if he were to finally go down, are you really like, you think Justice Hill's enough to get it done? People forget that Nuke Hopkins is like 3,000 years old, but he's still Nuke. And the thing about DeAndre Hopkins is his game was never based on speed. It was always based on physicality and mossing dudes. So even if he's lost a step, he can still help you win games. Bateman was a first round pick who has all the traits. He's never been able to stay healthy. Flowers looks like a really, really, really solid piece. Likely's already hurt. Andrews hasn't been the same since the injury. Like, on paper, it's the best roster in football, and that defense is going to be unbelievable.
But then Alexander's an injury guy.
Right.
And people have high hopes for him, but I don't know how additive their offseason moves were for me to elevate them significantly from the team here that still lost in the playoffs.
And they're also, there you go. Preach.
Not being able to win in the playoffs, I don't think is a small sample size. It's an indictment on your quarterback. Teams get good enough, they will slow down your run. Most teams will. Not every week, but eventually, if you can't make consistent chunk plays, and it's fascinating to me that Baltimore, Kansas City, and the Ravens have had so much success. I don't think they've been that great of teams. And the way that they have either intentionally or unintentionally neglected wide receiver, I think makes them gettable for the Steelers, Broncos, Chargers.
Okay, so before this completely devolves into an everyone else and we launch a nationwide podcast to talk about all the teams all the time, Gavin Michael Dawson, are you just asking, you simply meant to ask, are the Steelers a Super Bowl team?
Oh, yeah.
Are the Steelers your Super Bowl pick?
I do have Green Bay going in the NFC, by the way.
Because of the Micah Parsons trade? You wouldn't have said that before the Micah Parsons trade.
No, it's just a damn good. They might have the best roster in the NFC.
Yeah, and that's another one that you have to like a whole lot, and just based on the roster. So I'm a huge. I mean, Josh Allen is the genetic mutation of Ben Roethlisberger. Post Ben Roethlisberger, Josh Allen is my favorite quarterback. I am not a Bills fan per se, but I will own his jersey in every color before it's done, just because I love rooting for that dude. And you watch Hard Knocks and you get learn a little bit more about him. Impossible not to just love the way he plays. I mean, it's not just Rob Gronkowski running around with football. He really cares, and he's come a long way. Everyone talks about Justin Fields is of the world. Quarterbacks who aren't accurate don't become accurate. Josh Allen was not an accurate quarterback coming out of college. He has made himself into an elite quarterback, not just thrower of the football, but quarterback. And Buffalo, when you talk about injury variance and fumble luck and all the things, Buffalo has had some of the worst luck for years. And then you look at, Bosa and some of the guys that they've picked, they've done a really nice job of building from it. Hard not to really like them. I can't trust the Ravens in the playoffs. I refuse to even, like I said, respond about the Chiefs. So, like, what are we really talking about? How many teams are actually ahead of the Steelers? Like, if Aaron Rodgers has any magic left and this team gets any of the injury luck or the fumble luck, and the football gods don't just have a twisted sense of humor because the Steelers finally did things different and could do more, have the money and the picks to fix or fill any pothole that develops. How can you not take this team seriously as a Super Bowl contender in 2025?
Yeah, I do. I think they're a serious contender going into the season. A lot will be determined on Sunday, 1:00. Cannot wait for this game. Cannot wait to be back in with you Sunday night, reacting to this, giving you our instant takeaways, then taking a look at the film. We're excited to have Tim Benz on to talk Steelers football with us this next week. Stay tuned for that. I think Friday we'll probably, get his final thoughts on week 1 and then look forward to that Seattle matchup with him. Anything else, Newbear, before we let him go?
Since to Tim Benz, I'm so excited to talk to him. He's an institution. I mean, he's a really, really, really good one. And it's cool now to think about, we started this, we got a little bit delayed, out of the gate, and then the Mika trade happened and we threw the gauntlet down, and it was like, enough is enough. The time is now. You might only have Aaron Rodgers for one season. They're already talking about him coming back around and having a cameo, and people are already talking about 2026 and what could, would, should with the picks and the quarterback class and all these things. 2025 is here. Like, we've been talking about this for months, and we've been teasing about the draft being here next year and what that looks like and how it shapes up. How cool would it be to be standing on the point, surrounded by the three rivers, holding up the Lombardi?
Man, that would be incredible. Let's see them dominate with the offensive line. Let's see them stout in the run game. I want to see Y.A. Black with a coming out party. I know he's only 3rd on the depth chart, but I believe he has star ability. Let's see these corners locking down so much. The safeties coming to that box and making plays, and protect Aaron Rodgers. Keep him upright, and let's have Roman Wilson emerge, or Roman Wilson, or Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth. I mean, there's so many ways that this could come together Sunday afternoon to make us incredibly excited. We're looking forward to breaking it all.
So excited about Roman Wilson season, dude. And you know what I might be more excited about
yet?
What's that?
You have a Roman Wilson jersey yet?
I've got a timer. I've got like one of those countdowns going on, like 6 or 7 of them, and I'm waiting to pull the trigger right before. You know how that works. So I'm a big eBay Carnival Kid 32. Shout out, I love you, man. But do you know what I'm the most excited about? All the stuff that we've talked about. You know what we've barely talked at all about, because I just assume that it's going to happen. But now that the rankings have come out and he's not in the top 10, and everyone wants to talk about Micah Parsons trade, Myles Garrett. Do you know what I am the most excited about?
Sounds like TJ Watt hunting the
I am
passer.
the most excited about TJ Watt coming out on a death march and proving to everybody why he is the best player in football.
We'll chat with you Sunday afternoon, evening after the game. Till then, we'll see you